those. Mr. Nunes, I think it's now your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mundonk, I want to follow up just quickly on what Mr. Thompson was talking about. Those, I think to use your words, he said incentivize, or you said that these are incentives for manufacturing these green technologies. So these incentives,
Yes.
wouldn't those be same thing as, say, incentives for domestic oil producers to produce oil here in this country? I guess my question is, why is it, what's the difference? Why is it okay to have incentives for green technologies, but I think you said a little earlier that to incentivize the oil industry, that has no effect on domestic oil production?
There are 2 points to consider in what we consider in making these proposals. One is the effectiveness of what it is that we are proposing, what the effect of these incentives/subsidies are, and secondly, what they're trying to address. We feel as a general matter of tax policy, the tax code should be used to incentivize or subsidize an investment where the market itself is not providing the proper incentives, where the cost of an investment isn't an accurate representation of either the benefits or the cost of that investment. So, for example, on green technologies, what we don't have built into the price is the positive externality, to use an economics term, of the lower greenhouse gas emissions, less pollution, et cetera, but we don't have.
Well, I want to get into this, so that I just had that quick follow-up, but I'm going to get into something similar on this. So my question I want to discuss China here, and you're very concerned about how we're losing our edge to China in green technology.
Yes.
So but we often hear this, and they're rhetorical statements that we often hear repeated by the administration in the news media, but I just want to go into a few. We never talk about the actual numbers, okay? So, and these are just quick questions here, and I'm sure you're aware of these, but I want to get them on the record. So, in 3 years, 05, 06, and 07, China built 273 gigawatts of electrical generating capacity, while the U.S. built 32. You're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Of the 225 gigawatts that China built were coal-fired power plants, 225 in 3 years. 40 gigawatts was hydroelectric, and only 5.5 gigawatts were wind and solar in China. You agree with those numbers?
I don't know the specific numbers, but I
think it's from the Energy Information Administration.
I think the general breakdown is as I understand it, yes.
So during those years, the U.S. added twice as much wind and solar as China, even though China added 9 times as much energy as we did, right, during the same time frame.
Yes.
Okay. So now the administration basically, and everybody says that we're going to have to increase in the next 25 years, to meet demand, we're going to have to increase our, I have the number here, it's about 270 so gigawatts in the next 25 years that we're going to have to, somehow we're going to have to get this energy from somewhere. So, we're not doing a very good job if you look at the gigawatts we produced in the last 25 years. So for the next 25 years, it just seems to me like, do you guys believe that energy use and energy consumption is related to gross domestic product?
Yes, and when we talk about, as you started, we're losing our edge to China, I believe those statements are made in the context of the manufacturing facilities that produce the clean technology. So when a company is going out to buy the windmill turbines, for example, where can they look to purchase them? China has made huge investments in that sector of its economy with respect to the manufacturing capabilities of.
But you do agree, though, that GDP and energy consumption are tied together?
Yes.
So how is it when, I'm just going to paraphrase what the president said before I think it was San Francisco Chronicle during the campaign, but he said that under his plans that energy prices would skyrocket. You remember that quote, right?
I don't remember the skyrocket part, but I do remember a discussion of.
Well, I know he used the word skyrocket. I know that. So you believe that GDP is tied to energy consumption. The president says that under his plans that the energy prices will skyrocket. If we're going to increase prices of energy, how are we going to grow GDP?
Maybe I'm going to address this quickly. If you take a look at wealth creation is tied to productivity across the economy, labor productivity. It's also tied to energy productivity. The United States is substantially more energy productive than China today. So the relationship between our GDP growth and China's GDP growth advantage us. One of the things that we want to be able to do over time is to continue that advantage, to make sure that U.S. GDP growth continues with greater and greater energy productivity, because that, in fact, makes us more competitive globally. It drives more wealth creation over time, and that's where these innovation-driven energy agenda really comes to roost. What we are able to do is increase our productivity in the energy sector faster than the global economy and create the manufacturing base.
So my time is up. So with all the, but at the end of the day, the last 25 years and looking at the next 25 years, we're not doing anything but talking about how much energy we're going to create. And, at some point, somebody's got to call this what it is. It's almost like the administration is paying more attention to the actual tree and they can't see the forest through the trees.
So this administration...
we're not, no nuclear plants, no major sources of power. At some point, Mr. Mendonca said that GDP is tied to energy use. And if we don't produce more energy, don't you guys think we're going to have some serious problems?
What this administration has already done in the first 18 months is to reestablish the nuclear industry in the United States, to fund with a loan guarantee the first nuclear power plant in the last 30 years. We're already on course to double renewable generation capacity in the first 4 years of this administration. We're taking action now to actually change that equation that has existed, as you described,
right.
Since the Nixon administration.
So you're taking credit for nuclear power plants that were started under George Bush. But so
we are taking
which is
credit
fine,
for funding
which is fine,
the first nuclear power plant.
But let's not. I don't want to get into a partisan debate here. But at the end of the day, China has 100 or so nuclear power plants on the drawing board, and we're talking about 2. This isn't a partisan issue here. Republicans and Democrats got to figure out how we're going to grow our energy in this country. Our energy, it's not going to happen through solar and wind, guys, is it? Do you guys believe we can add all this energy with just solar and wind and 2 nuclear plants?
Again, the administration is on record for asking for loan guarantee authority to fund the next 10 nuclear units, again, putting in place the dollars behind making the first nuclear plants happen in the last 30 years. We also are on the record and have committed the funds to more than double renewable capacity in the United States.
Right, but if we double renewables and we build 10 nuclear plants, it still doesn't get us to where we have to go.
And dramatically increase the energy productivity of the U.S. economy so that we continue to be an advantage against China in the global race for wealth creation for U.S. citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.